Fight the bad guys. The bad guys were the Germans because they were under a party called the Nazi Party. It wasn't like a birthday party, but it was a political party. And they were the Nazis, and they were really bad people. So a lot of the American young men, like teenagers, had to go into the army to go fight the Germans. And this is a picture of your great-grandpa, Charlie Schwan. He was at a restaurant in Chicago with his girlfriend and one of his buddies.
Wait, there's something on it.
You mean those lines? That's my
Water coming out.
No.
Oh, no, what happened here? Oh, something. Oh, I can print another copy. The rain?
Water came out.
I didn't
somewhere.
spit out.
That was probably water from the sun.
Oh,
Some
okay.
condensation.
Yeah, condensation. Anyhow, so this is a picture of your great-grandpa and his girlfriend and his army buddy at a restaurant before they went on a ship and went over to Europe to fight the war, okay? So anyhow,
Can I add, he is younger here than your dad is now. He was 35. 35. Yeah, or 34 because when the war was over, they got married. I was born in 47. But he was old to have gone. Oh, he was.
yeah. Most of the soldiers were just teenagers.
Wow. So he was older.
There you go. We can pass this around.
That
You can
stuff
pass
is
it around.
good. Did you make it?
Well, anyhow,
Oh, that's good.
your great-grandpa trained. He was in charge of a small team of guys, almost like your soccer team. And their job was to fire this thing. It was called a mortar. It's like a cannon, but it's smaller than a cannon. You know, cannons fire straight out and they go far distances. The mortar was used right behind the rifleman, and it would shoot like this and then come down to help the riflemen kill the bad guys. So that's what it looked like. It's like a big tube, okay? And he was in charge of a small team of guys, and they fired this thing. That's what they were trained to do when they went to the war. So they were on a ship, a big ship, a giant ship, and with all their equipment and all the men, and they landed at a place called Normandy on D-Day +1, which is 1 year, 1 day after the initial invasion. Okay?
And
They
it was,
came in.
can I say one sentence?
Of course you
And
can.
it was the group of ships that landed was the biggest collection of ships ever in the history of the world.
Yep. So they came in on this big ship, and so they were going to unload their mortar and the trucks and the trailer. This mortar's too big for a man to carry, so they had a little trailer behind a Jeep. You know what a Jeep is, don't you? It's a small army truck, army car. And they had a trailer, and they'd put this mortar in the trailer and all their ammunition, all their shells, and they'd travel, to the battle with their Jeep. Well, anyhow, they're getting ready to get off this big boat, and they were told, sorry, we have to unload all the artillery cannons and all the artillery shells and all the trucks that pull the cannons. We have to unload all those things first. That has the priority right now. The Army needs these cannons right now. And so, Charlie Schwan, you and your guys are going to have to wait until you get your mortar. You might have to wait a couple days. In the meantime, you're going to be riflemen. You're going to be carrying a rifle instead of a mortar. And they were very upset because they were trained to fire the mortar. They weren't trained to be riflemen. And when after they left the boat and they climbed up this big hill, you can see that nobody's smiling at the camera because there's your great-grandpa right there. Because they're upset, and they're also afraid because they have to go fight the Germans, and they've never fought before. They've never fired the rifles. They really don't. They don't feel adequately trained, so they're nervous about that. But so they had to be real brave, and they had to do what they were told to do, even though they really did feel they were prepared. In fact, that very day, they got to the top of the hill, and they went to the place where they were going to camp out for the night. They were going to sleep on the ground. And there were Germans hiding in the trees, shooting at them. So they had to shoot these Germans in the trees before they could even go to sleep. And then the very next day, they had to attack the Germans. Everybody had to go forward and shoot at the Germans. And your great-grandpa and his friends were nervous and scared, but they had to be brave and do the best they could. And the whole division didn't have their mortars or the machine guns. Everyone's mortars and machine guns were still on the boat way out here, so they were real nervous about that. But they did the best they could, and they actually won the battle without their mortars or machine guns. A couple of days later, their mortar and machine guns and everything came up on the Jeeps and the trailers, and they had their stuff, and then they were happy. Happier, I suppose.
A D-Day.
They were happier. Okay. And then a couple of days later, they were attacking the Germans again, and a German hand grenade, you know what those are? We talked about hand grenades, right? A German threw a hand grenade at your great-grandpa and his team, and hurt great-grandpa in the back of his leg. A big piece of metal went in the back of his leg.
Can I say something about that?
Sure.
So Grandpa used to tell me that story, and I would say, I was probably his age, and I was like, he'd sit on his rocker, and I'd say, can I see your bullet hole, Grandpa? And he'd say, sure. He'd show me his bullet hole.
Really?
Wow.
I never forget that.
I wish I could have talked to him. I have more questions. But anyhow, and so he couldn't fight anymore, and his friends took him back to a hospital that was in a tent in a field. And the doctors operated on his leg, but it was pretty bad. And they said, we have to send you to England to a big hospital, to a real hospital. And so they put him on an airplane, an army airplane, flew him over to England. He took a train to another hospital, and they operated again on his leg to make it, try to heal it. And then after a month or two, they said, well, we really need you back with your mortar, Charlie Schwan. So they sent him back to France to fight with his men. But he was still limping. His leg wasn't healed very well, and it hurt, and he couldn't run. So the doctor over there said, Charlie Schwan, we have to find a different job for you because you can't be in charge of a mortar team. You can't be the coach of a mortar team if you can't run. And so they made him a security guy. He had another team of guys, and their job was to guard supplies. You know, they'd have fields full of gasoline cans, tanks, trucks, guns, ammunition, all kinds of stuff that they had in fields. And of course, they needed people to guard this stuff so it didn't get stolen or anything like that. So that's what your Grandpa Schwan did until the war was over. When the war was over, then they put him back on a ship and he sailed home with millions of other sailors back here to the United States. And then he got married to that girlfriend. And they had 2 little baby girls. Yeah, you did, Susie.
That's what he calls me now.
Okay. And here's some more pictures. There's a close-up. If I'm looking at the close-up. That's good. The stuff we just put in. Here's a postcard for you. See him there.
I have my
I have a question, Marty. Part of the story that just fascinates me is that you, as a little kid, had this picture up in your room.
Yeah.
That's you didn't know.
My bedroom. Yeah, I didn't have a garage.
In your bedroom.
Yeah.
So, and you always wondered about it.
Yeah.
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 And lo and behold, you get to be with one of the children.
I just wish I'd met up with her earlier because I've got a lot of questions for Charlie, but I can't ask
Had
them.
that picture forever.
No, I had a copy of this picture.
Because it was a famous.
No, you had it when you had it.
Oh yeah, this is
How old were you?
Oh, I was a World War II aholic at 8 or 9.
Yeah. I mean, he's been in the
Yeah.
And I remember Isaac saying, Elias saying to me, why do you like guns so much? But you know, he just sort of talked about, he came into this world the day that I left, April 19th.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, it was the anniversary of my dad's passing.
The thing that intrigued me about the picture, I didn't know anybody, the thing that intrigued me is the guys, Charlie Schwan's carried a carbine, and the officer in front of them's carried a carbine, and the first sergeant, who's actually higher rank than your dad, first sergeant, he's carrying a carbine too. The rest of these guys are all carrying rifles that were World War I rifles. And, you know, rather than the M1 Garand rifle, they're carrying 03 G3s. And the officers. Yeah, he had a pistol. But anyhow, that intrigued me. Is, you know, why were they carrying these obsolete guns? And I never did get the answer. So I guess a friend scanned the National Archives looking for the answer too. But we figured they came off the ship because these guys normally didn't carry rifles because they were bordermen. They carried pistols or carbines. But here they're carrying rifles. We wonder why are they carrying rifles? Some of the bordermen. Well, why are they carrying rifles? We didn't know they were bordermen until I got Charlie's diary and figured it all out. So they probably had these rifles stored on the ship as backups, replacements, you know, in case you ever need it. Here's these old rifles. And so that's all they had. So they issued these guys the old rifles, and that's what they had.
And the caliber the same?
Yeah, the ammunition is exactly the same. But these are bolt action, you know, think like hunting rifles, right? 30-06. Whereas the M1 could bang, 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 you know. Semi-automatic. Yeah, it was a much more efficient rifle. But anyhow, so that solved the question. The M1 was. Anyhow.
Did you have any questions?
There will be a test.
I like the close.
Yeah.
I did